Hooded is one of our ginkgo pictures, which started a long time ago when we were in New York, and we were in Gramercy Park Hotel. And in Gramercy Park, there were some trees with some very beautiful, strange leaves, which we hadn't seen before. And we saw some very elderly Chinese ladies picking up something connected with the tree. And we were told that she was collecting parts of the ginkgos for medicine or herbal or something. And then some friends said that the ginkgo tree was very important because it was one of the first trees to come back to life after Hiroshima. So we gathered a lot of the leaves together, and they were curling in the hotel room. So we put them between the pages of the telephone directory of the hotel. And Preston, when we decided we were time to go back to London, we didn't feel we could take the leaves back with we didn't want to steal the telephone book. So we put them between the pages of a collection of adult books that we'd purchased in New York. And we thought, what's going to happen at customs? Are we going to stop for carrying vegetation or stop for collecting pornography? We didn't know which. Anyway, we got back with the books and the leaves and began to create the ginkgo pictures, which were shown first of all
in Venice Biennale. We showed it, and it was quite exciting because we did I think there must have been 25 pictures, all based on the ginkgo pictures and the ginkgo leaves. In fact, it was quite really extraordinary, and we trying to incorporate all the feelings of the ginkgo tree.
And then we came back to London, and we had a suitcase, and the taxi dropped us at the end of the street. And as we walked towards our house, we saw some ginkgo leaves on the street. And we thought, how could they have slipped out of our suitcase? How puzzling, how strange. We came all the way from New York with these magic leaves, and they seemed to have escaped from our case.
They
Is
were
this
in
magic
front,
or what?
They
And
were
then we
in front
realized,
of our house.
then we realized there were ginkgo trees in Spitalfields, which we'd never seen. It took New York and the stories about the ginkgo leaves and the great adventure of bringing them back to make us realize. And then we found out so many different people had a ginkgo tree. I think there's one in the Archbishop's Palace in somewhere in the middle of England we saw.
And Goethe had one
Goethe had
ginkgo
one
tree.
in the garden.
So many other ones. It's a very, what you call, magical tree, we believe very much so. And after all, it is probably the Japanese tree.
I think some shops were turning away young people and telling them to take their hood down if you want to come into the shop. So there was a sort of discrimination against people with a hood. So we started a campaign, hug a hoodie.
Hug a hoodie.
We wanted to include some in our pictures,
Because
combining with the
yes.
ginkgo leaves.
Because they used to walk in front of our house every single day. The hooded young boys, all hiding their faces, and we included them in our work. It was quite exciting.
They're one person, but two people, and we are two people, but one artist.
But not only that, because we are always the living sculpture in our artwork. From the beginning, from 1969 onward, we became the center for our art. We are always there looking at a different subject that we can see in front of our house. But we are the center of our art.
And we are dealing with all that is universal. We're dealing with death,
Hope,
life,
fear,
sex,
money,
race,
religion,
shitty,
naked,
human,
world.
all the subjects that people can understand or be part of wherever they live in the world, whatever they are or whatever they aren't.
That's it. They're colored, no? They could be anything.
It reminds me of in the 70s when we did the Dirty Words pictures, and journalists in Britain and in North America and in Europe would ask a very common question, which was, why do you have black people in your pictures? And we didn't know why we had them in the pictures, because it's just that we didn't not want to have them in the pictures. That's the only reason why we were there. We didn't have the idea to exclude them.
I think we must be some of the first artists to include what they call all kind of people, Chinese people, black people, African people. That's quite exciting for us to make a global idea of the world. We are all equal.
And not thinking about it, not being conscious of it. This is the great journey through life. Class war, militant and gateway. The journey that we all have through life.
We believe all the young people when they are young, like 25, no, let's say 18, 19, 20, till 34, they all want to be part of a class war. They all want to be what they call, there is a class war inside themselves, you know, because they want to be different than the older people. So that's quite exciting. They all are battling for life with their sticks in their hands.
That's why we never show life or explain life. We are trying to make our tomorrows different. Everybody wants a better world, an improved world. And that's how we've arrived at this situation now, because of the effort of countless thousands of people who paved the way for our modern world. And we want to add to that and take it forward. So it's very important that we never show life or reflect life. We are trying to form our tomorrows. We want tomorrow to be different.
And being militant is
It's
quite
very
very
important.
important, that you don't give in too easy.
It's very simple. We had a very dear friend called David Robilliard, who was a wonderful poet.
He's a very good artist.
Who became an artist. And he sort of adopted us. We saw him once a week for dinner before he ran off to the naughtiest nightclubs in London. And he had many, many friends, and they all wanted to be models in pictures. So he had a big list, and they were queuing up.
They were queuing up. He was going through all the nightclubs in London to find these young people for us.
And
But the problem is that he died from AIDS.
It was a very,
in
very sad
87.
story.
A very sad story. But he's still very famous. His poetry is the most modern poetry that you can read.
You must look him up when you have a moment. David Robilliard. And it was very important. He always brought us people who didn't have the look of a particular aspect of life. They were average people. They didn't look as though they were bank manager's son or a school teacher's son or a poor person from the village. They were absolutely without any sign of background, which was very important.
And it was very important they were able to open their eyes.
To take the images. And when we took the images of them, it usually took about half an hour or 3/4 an hour, sometimes an hour. And when we finished, we said, we hope that wasn't too exhausting. We hope you're not tired. And they said, no, we enjoyed it. And we said, what did you enjoy about that? With these hot lamps and this having to stand still for so long. And they all came with the same answer, the attention.
The attention. For the first time, somebody looked at them.
Was looking at them in a detailed, intellectual, human, different, artistic way.
They were important humans. Normally, they're all just irrelevant.
And of course, they are immortalized in this picture. They're all people who did live and did look like that. Many must be long forgotten, some dead.
It's an amazing journey through life. Class war, militant, and gateway.
How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 in the main panel.
It was quite exciting because this piece we created when we had a Hayward Gallery show. And the first time we showed in the Hayward Gallery when we had the big retrospective, and it was an extraordinary sensation in some way. All the young people came to see our work. They were, yes, our art at the time was for all the young people. Maybe some older people, but mostly young people we wanted, and we got them.
We still have a huge following amongst young people. We get lovely fan letters from all over the world from young people. It's exciting. And of course, we must understand that when we're creating pictures like Class or Militant Gateway, we're in a different form. We're not normal. We're in a state, an elevated state. It can only be compared with the feeling you have when you are sexually or romantically attracted to another person. When everything in life seems different, everything tastes different, the weather seems to be improved, colors are different. It's an exalted, that is the state of creativity. It's an enormous force to feel that a picture is coming out of us to go out into the world that doesn't exist. something new, something that hasn't been thought of exactly like that before. No one created a picture class or militant gateway until we did. And it lives on and has its message and messages for people wherever it is exhibited. And we're very proud of that.
I mean, we just
Time.
make, after year, we make groups of pictures. So we must have made 6 or 7 groups of pictures after the class war militant gateway. And because we are still creating every single day, but we are always like in a black bag, you know, inside. It's all black where we are creating an artwork. And so we don't know exactly what is outside in this world. We open the door of Fournier Street, and whatever it is in front of us is going to be part of our work all the time that. So we see, sometimes we see something different. When we look up in the sky or when we are looking down, we see different things. And that is part of a creation of this living sculptors walking the streets of London.
And it always has to be 3 things together, rolled in together. That's the past, the present, and the future. It has to encompass all of those 3. So when we step out of the front door of our house, as Gilbert was saying, we're stepping into a French street built in the 18th century because the people were chucked out of France for religious reasons. We are within walking distance of the tomb of the man who wrote Pilgrim's Progress. We can also walk to the tomb of Wesley, who invented the 2nd biggest group of Christians in the world. We have Brick Lane at the end of Fournier Street, which was Yiddish speaking when we were students. And of course, at the other end of the street is Wilkes Street, named after John Wilkes, who was the man who invented the idea of a free press, a press that was separate from governments. No one had thought of that until he came along. So we are surrounded by the past, present, and future, and we're very important for us to take that with us into the studio to create our new pictures.
Even this morning, we already created an artwork because we are doing at the moment the new pictures. We already did 11 now at the moment. So every day we do a design for the new pictures.
We can give you a preview of some of the titles. They are the corpsing pictures. The corpsing pictures. And their titles are Kiss Bone, Remain, 19, Bone, Old Bone, Equals, Gated, Beano, Boneyard, and Bone Wheel. And today we will complete another picture which doesn't have a title yet.
We are working every single day because we only have a certain time before we are going to pass away.
Before the bones.
We are turning into bones for the artworks.
We're very excited by the creative process. We still think it's something we can't explain entirely, because when we go to the studio in the morning and see what we did yesterday, it's impossible for us to reconstruct exactly how we arrived at that. It's because the pictures, in some way, we let them make themselves as nearly as possible with as little interference from us. They have to form themselves like a real living form.
I mean, first we have to take images, no? For maybe 3 or 4 months, 5 months, we're taking images of ourselves or outside, all the subjects that speak to us, the news, the subject that speak to us. And every year, something else speaks to us. So once we have, like, say, maybe 10,000 images, we're able to choose images to make the new pictures.
Sometimes we know why we're taking the images, sometimes we don't know. But that's very important as well.
We don't want to be too conscious. It has to be what you call like a dreamlike to make. They have to make themselves. Everything have to make themselves. Like we did when we did drunken pieces in 1972, 73, 74. That was quite exciting. It reminded us of a lot of amazing evenings.
I think we're especially proud of the time element, because a lot of people would go to see a retrospective exhibition of ours and wouldn't even think of the dates of the pictures. Young people will stand in front of a picture from 1977 called Cunt Scum and thought, what the hell is that to do with? They didn't think that it's old or new. It's just speaking to them in that moment in their lives.
I mean, after all, we did roughly 5,000 pictures.
We believe in the force of culture, of pictures and music and pop music, and all the forms of culture are what makes us safe and free. And countries in the world which are not cultivated enough, that don't have a culture, are not safe and they're not free. They tend towards becoming dictatorships, or you're in the grip of religion. So it's a culture that's the most advanced human form, to be a cultivated society. Is extraordinary.
And
To be elaborate,
yeah.
to elaborate the individual.
And very soon we are going to open our center in 2 or 3 months around the corner from our house. And that is going to be exciting, because then we are going to be there forever.
We can live forever. It's in a small street off Brick Lane, which is a great romantic place to be. It's a place that people come to as a place to be. Brick Lane. If you stand outside of all the railway stations and tube stations nearby, people will all ask, Brick Lane? Brick Lane? They all want to go to Brick Lane. And our centre is just off Brick Lane, next door to a very beautiful little pub called the Pride of Spitalfields, which is rumoured is going to change its name when our centre opens. They're going to change the name from the Pride of Spitalfields to the Shame of Spitalfields. It'll make it more exciting, perhaps.
No, we had a very good time during the pandemic. We made a lot of artwork, and we showed a lot of artwork all the time, non-stop. We don't think about pandemic. Okay, we had to eat for the first time at home. Sandwiches.
That was horrible.
Horrible.
That was horrible.
Ham sandwich all the time, or cheese sandwiches.
Crumbs on the floor and washing up to do, and not seeing our favorite waiters. No, it was a nightmare. That's how we didn't like. But as Gilbert said, we did do 3 London, Paris, New York shows during the pandemic. And in Belgium, we did a show, and now in Frankfurt. And now we're planning the corpsing pictures. Nothing will stop us. We think we create the pictures to go out into the world, to function and to work and to spread the message. It's very, very important. And we're often stopped in the streets by people who come from countries where they don't have our art. And they say, why don't you exhibit in my country? Everybody would like to be part of modernity.
After all, we did nearly 100 museum shows. And we did one in Tokyo, I forgot what it was. Seizo Museum, we did a big show there.
Many years ago.
It might have been in 97, 98, something like that.
When we were baby artists.
Recently, we didn't hear a lot about Japan. I don't know why. They were hiding.
It became a little quiet in art terms for some reason. I think our
big shows.
Our path is mapped out. We're going to be showing these pictures, the corpsing pictures very soon. We will have the Gilbert and George Centre opening. We planned an enormous show called 21st Century Pictures. The first show we did like that in the Hayward Gallery in London.